And we can now go to the main table. Eklent Kaçi starting the defence of the UK Open that he won in London almost exactly a year ago. So the lag goes the way of the Spanish player, and he'll start us off. It's another race to 9 for a place in winners' qualification round.
Pretty nice break shot there, making the 1. In the side, always the kiss on the cue ball, it seems, but probably nothing offensive to start here. Big match in all kinds of ways. Of course, you keep your record clean, get into that winner's qualification, as Michael talked about, but get a day off tomorrow also for so many players that travel from abroad. And always that extra time when you're away is something good you can plan for. Get some nice food, get your rest, of course, some practice on the tables. Maybe watch some matches, some buddies. Gonna play a light one here. Easy to give up a jump.
So Eklent Kaçi coming to the table. He is quite unbelievably 25 years of age. Feels like he should be much older at this stage. Broke through at a very young age. He's ranked number 15 in the world, down a couple of places since the start of the year.
And it doesn't appear the jump is too much of an option with the 9 so far away, the 2 near a rail, near-ish a rail, easy to jump a ball off the table. Thought the 2 rail kick may be available between the 3 and 9. He's looking at a big swerve here. Wow. Now looking to go directly at a little small piece of the 2, I assume anyways. I wouldn't mind coming 3 rails behind this. You know, kick up to the top rail, the right side cushion, the bottom cushion, and up at the blue 2. A little more friendly way to aim. Looks like he's going to go 1 rail at it. No, he took the 3 rail route and got 2 rails, but I think that was the percentage play, and boy, what did he do here? This is going to be some kind of difficult hit for Delgado.
Delgado, the older of the 2, turned 30 in January. 45th in the World 9-Ball Tour rankings. Also down a few places from the start of the year. He was number 42 at the beginning of 2024.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Can't go any kind of directly at this 2 ball. The 7 and 9 have it all covered up. Just gonna try and move something here. Maybe tie something else up. The pink 4 onto the 7, maybe. Almost could have given up a 4-9 combination in the future, but is one of them situations you could be tempted to play a 3 foul with a big cluster here, and of course ball in hand to start.
Yeah, a run of 3 fouls means forfeiture of the rack. And we see it more and more, players spotting the opportunity to force their opponent into that and playing for it.
Yeah, you'd like to just leave the 2 there, seeing how difficult that snooker was a moment ago. Trying to see where he can run with the cue ball. Now, he doesn't want to just go up table. He wants to try and use the black 8 or the green 6 to cut off a rail, to speak, on the incoming kick shot from Jose. He's overhit this, but the 8's going to help, but maybe not enough to keep him off a hit. The reason why I say that, the jump cue, of course, so Delgado should go to the air here. Referee's got to be right on top of this.
I always think if you win a title on this sort of level of prestige, nothing is taken away from it if the draw opens up a bit for you. Ultimately, everyone turns up with the same aim in mind. But it is nice when you win an event and have some landmark wins and beat some top players along the way. And that was certainly the case for Kaci on his way to this title last year. Beat Shane Van Boening in the last 16 and Joshua Filler in the final. And you look at some of the other players he beat that week. Ko Ping Chung, who won the US Open not long after that, and Skylar Woodward, who was getting so many good results around that time. It really was such an impressive road to the title at the Copper Box last year for Kaci.
Yeah, and talk about in style, the way he won. I think it's still the best performance I've ever seen in a final. If I have to think about it, I'm pretty sure it is, especially considering how tough the tables were.
Yeah, 13-4 against Joshua Filler. And what adds another bit to it as well is that Filler had played incredibly well in his semi-final earlier the same day.
Yeah, nice shot. So Delgado doing everything so far to get out of these situations, and now has returned the favor. Well, this is a difficult hit as well. Don't really see much of a path. Expecting to see if the pink 4 plays by the 9. Rather give up an off-angle combination later in the rack than an open pocket to a player like Delgado. So he may be able to come 3 rails, bottom rail side, right side rail, up to the top rail and hit the back of the 2. But, oof, super tough.
The relentless clicking of balls. You can hear so much in the background there. Still so many matches going on. We approach 9 hours since play began here. There's a natural building of tension at an event like this because as the number of players left in the tournament and therefore the number of tables in operation gradually diminishes, it gets quieter and quieter in the venue up until that last day when there's only 1 table in operation for the semi-finals and final.
He's got to get a lot of speed on this if he's going 3 cushions. Wants to hit down on it, kind of center ball. What a hit. How's that? Very good.
Yeah, a real show of quality. And acknowledged by his opponent. I remember Alex Lely, your Mosconi Cup rival from recent years, Jeremy, once saying that Kaci had a big billiard brain. We saw it in evidence with that shot.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit in that regard. I think, you know, his ability to knock balls in, break the balls with so much power, effortless power, cueing, but really good in the safety department, the tactical side of things, kicking at the ball. Now looking to see if that second rail would open up with enough spin. I think he realizes it probably won't, so he's going to go one cushion. He's going to bend this. He's shooting that way, which is okay. It's not the worst. Going to the top cushion, coming at the 2-ball.
Keeping an eye on that match we were watching on table 2. Naoki Oi did make it 6-1 over Do Tae Kien, but the Vietnamese player has just won rack 8, so still clinging on at 6-2 down. Matchroom Multisport YouTube if you want to have a look in on that.
Not sure what he's sizing up here, really. I guess maybe a 2-4 combination does play, but looks off angle to me. Looks like he's attacking, though.
Feels like a very long opening rack already, and only one ball gone off the table.
Yeah, Kaci, he's not the fastest player at times. Delgado kind of up and down with it. He's never going to play real fast, but wouldn't call him slow. I think somewhat by design. Kind of feel that way, that he had a couple options to kick at that blue 2, and no, nothing easy. You kind of feel like this is makeable, but maybe not.
Yeah, his body language suggested that was largely what he intended. Showing that big billiard brain again.
Yeah, if he's got to play a safety, he may push through on the blue 2, just kind of knocking it around past the pink if he can. Otherwise, probably crosses this over. Trying to run the cue ball back down table.
Well, I hope you haven't made any plans for dinner, Jeremy, because it looks as though we're going to be here a long time with this match. Early days of these open events, we're used to seeing some matches that feel shorter than this. They've clearly come to settle in for a scrap.
That's a big difference in the pro level, and the next level down, I think, is really escaping safety situations, trying to make your opponent earn it a bit more. You know, getting an extra game out every now and again. I don't know if that was intended, but it was a heck of a shot. But yeah, just scraping out an extra game here and there, which makes a difference in some matches. Big stroke coming here. He's got to draw this quite a bit. Wants to avoid the 9. And he's going to fall in that gap, so that'll do.
Been aware of Delgado for a few years now. The US Open in 2021, the first of the Atlantic City era. He won 4 matches, one of which was against Mika Immonen, former back-to-back winner of the US Open. It was a 16-man single elimination stage that year, and he was 3 wins away from getting to it. The following year, he had some good showings in a number of matchroom events. The obvious highlight coming at the European Open. Won a hill-hill finish against Mieszko Fortunski to reach the semi-finals. And put up a really good showing against Shane Van Boening, who'd won the world title a few months earlier. Only lost 11-8.
Yeah, he's steady, and he's better than steady. I mean, he can come with shots, but just always going to feel like he's not doing a whole lot to you, but getting the job done. Going to travel a bit. Unforced error from nowhere. I don't know if this jump for the right-hander is real playable. Looks like he's going to attempt it anyways.
Bit of goalkeeping by Eklent Kaçi. But the upshot of it all is that that's basically the decisive moment of the rack, because no way he won't take 8 and 9 here. Well, if it goes the distance and every rack is as long as this one, we're going to be here for about 5 or 6 hours. Seems unlikely. Eklent Kaçi then, taking advantage of ball in hand to polish off the last 2 there. And he leads Jose Alberto Delgado 1-0. Now, Ko Ping Chung has made it just. He's beaten Mikkel Ogard of Norway by 9 racks to 7. So all the Ko brothers in action this afternoon. In fact, at one point they were all playing on different tables at the same time. And 2 of them have won. Ko Ping Han, the one beaten, losing to Imran Majid. So let's see what else is going on in this round. Niels Fine has won the first rack against Martinho Correa of Britain. Do Tae Kien has pulled another one back against Naoki Oi, so he now trails 6-3. Fedor Gorst, winner of the World Masters 9 days ago in Germany, has won all of the first 4 racks against the British player Dean Shields. US Mosconi Cup player Shane Wolford 2-1 up on Marvin Assis of the Philippines. Pia Filler has a 2-1 lead over Mark Meisterbosch who was one rack away from winning the Spanish Open last summer. And just a couple of other scores you may be interested to hear. Anton Raga, who was also one rack away from winning one of these big Matchroom Open titles in 2023, is 3-2 down at the moment against Karl Nadeberg. And our van Dad is putting up a really good showing against Joshua Filler. The British player does trail, but only by a couple of racks at 5-3. And what about our colleague Carl Boys back on the table to play Alvin Anggito of Indonesia, and Boys is trailing by 2-0. Back to the action here.
Yeah, nice break off. A lot of action, but nothing down for Kaci. And oddly enough, I watched him practice breaking a couple times on this table. Missed the one both times. He's someone who does not baby the rack one bit. Really puts a lot of power into it. So maybe used to making an odd ball besides the one at times. Well, I'm surprised he didn't go for that. We may see, of course, the safety was really good. So it's going to be a 2-rail kick of some sort for the big man.
Yeah, the UK Open win is part of a really good spell for Kaci last year, as he seemed to be finding the consistency that hasn't always been there in his career, to go with the obvious talent. He'd been in the final of the World Masters just a few weeks before that, lost to Ko Pin-Yi, and looked to have a good chance of back-to-back Matchroom titles after his UK Open win. The Spanish Open just a few weeks later was playing well, but heavily beaten in the end by Dang Junhui. Went on to win the title.
Yeah, this kick shot here, I like not to hit it, you know, not super light, but on the lighter side. A couple reasons to keep accuracy on the kick. And also you want the cue ball to continue forward, maybe leaving something tough on the blue too. Hard to predict a snooker. Sound like a miscue, actually.
Yeah, very hollow sound, you might say. Backs up what you're saying. Okay, so ball in hand for Delgado. And a chance of sorts to make this a much briefer rack than the first.
It looks like he's going to track the cue ball down for the red 3 in the middle, the right middle. See the pink over on the left rail. That's the real key ball in the rack. If he can get on that nicely, everything else should open up. Wants to avoid the 8. Wants to come 3 cushions and bounce just above it. He's going to get close to the 8 here. This is another huge mistake with the cue ball. So now a jump cue coming out after an unforced error. Not as bad as the last, but not a whole lot better, really. You see he's pocketed the 4. Got a couple little bumps on the green 6 and the purple 5, but now in really good position, it looks like.
talking earlier about the progress he was making in 2021 and how he then built on it in 22. But in these matchroom events in 2023, it really was a big disappointment for him. He only got to single elimination in one of them. That was the Hanoi Open. He was heavily beaten there by Ko Ping Chung, 10 racks to 1 in the last 64. So if he is to try and build on the progress he was achieving a couple of years ago, really needs a couple of decent runs, including at least one deep one in events of this nature in 24.
Cue ball running a bit more than he wanted there. Shouldn't be a problem to tie our score, though.
Yeah, did look at one stage as though he might be leaving the table from this chance a good deal earlier than anticipated. But he's come through it and has levelled at 1-1 against the defending champion, Eklent Kaçi. Now, Jeremy, there is a chance you could be playing Anton Raga tomorrow, because you will face the loser of his match against Karl Naderberg. Raga was actually 4-2 down. He has just got one back, so it's 4-3 there. Carl Boys has lost another one against Alvin Anjito, so the Indonesian player now leading 3-0 in that one. And Arfan Dad continuing to battle well against Joshua Filler. He's only a couple behind at 6-4. Loho Sum 4-3 up on Mustafa Alnar. Dean Shields has managed to open his account against Fedor Gorst, the World Masters champion, leading 4-1. Shane Wolford 3-2 down to Marvin Assis, and Pia Filler has a 3-1 lead over Mark Bijsterbosch, who was due to be playing the former Premier League footballer Troy Deeney earlier today. But Deeney's much publicised involvement was cancelled because he'd picked up an injury. Ryuki Oi now 7-3 up on Dote Kien in that match we were watching a little earlier on table 2. Now, let's turn our focus back to this one.
Yeah, didn't really see much wrong with the hit on the 1. Cue ball was arcing nicely back into the 9. Looks like he's elevated over the purple 5. Always a funny shot here. You want to kind of bank this away and draw over behind the 9. You're a little ways away. You could worry about fluking a ball in, possibly the blue 2. Nice shot there. All you can do is really contain the cue ball. Try and hope the 1 agrees. Like I said, you don't fluke another ball in. Well, there's an open pocket. It does play by the 9 a little tight, but a 3-9 looming a couple shots away. Whoever does get this first 1 ball down. Looks like he can push forward, maybe catching just a little of the pink as he pushes forward for the blue 2. Okay, he's playing safe if he's elevating the cue.
Very disappointing year for Delgado, as I was saying, in the matchroom events in 2023, but he spent a lot of time playing in the US and did well, and some of the smaller ranking events there had a number of 9th placed finishes in various events, including the quite prestigious Turning Stone Classic. So there was some form and there were some wins during the year, just perhaps didn't come with the regularity or in the places he would ideally have chosen.
Hard not to foul here. He's got to sneak right between, and there's a scratch off the right side of the one. Boy, he's hit this beautifully. Really nice. A little unfortunate in my opinion. Tried to play it lightly.
Amazing how much bigger the pockets seem when you're trying to stay out of them than trying to get into them.
Yeah, we've said that forever in the pool room. Another 3 foul situation, just because the pink 4 is a nasty little ball, kind of covered up, and could knock the 1 down table underneath the 4 and the black 8, planting the cue ball right behind the 6. That's what he's looking at now. How difficult is this 4 ball for later in the rack? He's missed ball in hand, Michael. Won't see that very often.
And it was like he was trying to prove what we were saying, that the pockets are much smaller when you're trying to pop balls rather than avoid the scratch. Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what he's left here. Delgado doesn't seem too disturbed about things, even though I thought he was dead snookered. Overhead tells us maybe he's got a little more of it than we think. Haven't seen Carl Boys at the table much, I'll tell you. Seen a lot of the man from Indonesia, is it?
Yeah, Alvin Anggito. Boys has got one on the board, but he's 4-1 down in that. You know, you missed each other in the draw potentially by 1 place. If Carl had been 1 match lower down the draw, then he could have been facing you tomorrow if he lost.
Oh, nice shot here. Really good. So did have a piece of the 1. Acted like he didn't like much of it. Went with it and buried a big one. Now, both these players, of course, I know Kaci for sure is used to a slower match, but you can kind of feel, though, even if you're used to it, can get you a bit out of rhythm. I know that. So shots like this, after a lot of dinking and ducking around, look very difficult, I think. Little jabby there.
Is he going to give up ball in hand for a second time? No. Got to mention the British player Arfan Dad. He's really putting up a great show against Joshua Filler. Only 1 behind now. 6-5.
Okay, I didn't know this 2 was playable. Looks like it certainly is. He was kind of eyeing up the 5 ball for later in the rack, so gonna try and squeeze between the 8 and 7. Some 2 rails around for the 3 in the upper right. Yeah, that looked very difficult to me.
Kaci, as I said, got a bye through the first round earlier today. Delgado did play, but it was comfortable against Carlo Blasi of Italy, winning by 9 racks to 2.
And does he come down the left side of the table for the pink in the lower right? He could come 2 rails, kind of where the cue ball's at now.
Quite a few unexpected misses on both sides already. You consider we're only just into the 3rd rack.
Yeah, and I kind of feel that, of course, this first game was a lot of tactical, great kick shots, whatnot, not giving up much, but kind of feel like every shot's a bit of a presentation for each player, and I don't think that's helping them as far as getting in gear, getting in rhythm. All right, wanting the center of the table is all. Oh, he came a bit further. Going to get a little thinner than he wanted. Some may say maybe wanted a little more out of the cue ball, but I think more of the center of the table is what was by design.
You're not playing till 4 tomorrow, Jeremy, so I think this match should be just about finished in time for that.
Yeah, they'll pick it up, but played a match, you know, you get a little mental with these pockets. You can pretty much miss anything. We've seen a lot of that today. All right, 2 rail kick off the left long rail to the top cushion coming at the pink. He's trying to make a decision. Do I want to thin this and go between the 5-6 up and down the table? Could easily add a little right spin and go into these balls. I think it's hard not to want to go into them, really, because if you try to go between them, you could get an awful little kiss off of one and end up in a bad spot. Yeah, I think that was just something you had to do there.
Kaci, as I was saying, was really finding a lot of consistency round about this time last year, and then had that terrible car accident, and he was seemingly heading for a return to the Mosconi Cup team. Well, that was off the table. There was talk we might not see him again for a year, but he returned a good deal earlier than expected. We saw him at the World Masters a couple of weeks ago and actually led Joshua Filler 4-1 in the opening match. Ended up losing 9-6. It's just no rhythm really being built up, is there?
No, not at all. And very surprising, really. Almost, I don't know how to explain it. Not really fearing the shot, it doesn't appear, but that's not the right word I'm looking for, or theme. Five near the pocket, but still nothing easy with the cue ball near the rail. Really having to go forward with some power to get on the green 6. I know it's early and it's his first match after drawing a bye, but definitely a player I saw last year that was looking for these kind of shots, really looking for any opening, and looking to manhandle, you know, all situations that came about.
It's going to be one of those matches, isn't it? At the moment, it's shaping up to be a real slog and a scrap for every ball before someone eventually falls over the line. Obviously it can change, but you look at that scoreboard and see 1-1, you can't quite believe it. We're only playing the third rack. Feels like it's already been going on such a long time.
Yeah, tough equipment, you know, can kind of get you a little heady, trying to make sure you're too perfect on everything and not understanding that, you know, the pockets out here are smaller than maybe what you're used to, but the game itself hasn't changed a whole lot. See that in golf quite often, I think, in the major championships and whatnot. The players really picking things apart, but and understandably, you want to win huge titles. He really laid up for this one. He could have gotten much closer to the 8. He's got a nice natural angle, though. And I haven't seen Beisterbosch at the table much either. I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of Pia Filler at the table.
Yeah, 4-2 to Pia Filler in that one. I believe it was 4-1 a little earlier.
I think maybe she just got another on her side is what the case is, maybe.
Yeah, they are racking them again for the next rack, so we'll update you on that in a moment, and we can update you now on events on this table where Jose Alberto Delgado leads for the first time in the match against Eklent Kaçi at 2-1. They've been playing for around 40 minutes, maybe slightly more than that, and we're only 3 racks in. Surely it can't continue in that way. Naoki Oi on the hill now at 8-5 against Do Tae Kien of Vietnam. Niels Fine has a 3-2 lead over the British player Martinho Correa, who had a go-to-hill win over Nick Malai earlier today. Fedor Gorst looks to be closing in on a place in winners qualification round. He now leads Dean Shields 6-1. Shane Wolford 4-3 down to Marvin Assis. And yeah, I can now confirm Pia Filler has added another rack, so it'll be a really good win over Mark Beisterbosch, who was 1 rack away, as I said, from winning an equivalent event to this last summer. So 5-2 to Filler. Carl Boyes has got it back to 5-2 down against Alvin Angito. Carl Naderberg and Anton Raga level at 4-all. And Joshua Filler has finished strongly to finally see off Arfan Dad. Filler, winner of this title 2 years ago, a 9-5 winner. We're talking about some of the moments Delgado had in 2023. Maybe the most memorable was playing for Spain B at the World Cup in his home country. As hosts, they were entitled to nominate 2 teams, so he played with Hona Suto. They didn't really actually accomplish all that much on the table. They were always going to beat Saudi Arabia, you would have felt, in the first round. And then in the second round, they were beaten 7-2, quite heavily, really, by the Philippines. But the memory of playing for their country, in their home country at a World Cup, in front of an enthusiastic crowd, that's still something you can take away with you. Even though he'd probably not be too keen to take that shot away in his memory bank, because that wasn't great.
No, total miss hit there. Cue ball not anywhere close to what he wanted. He does have a shot at the red 3, but how difficult would that have been trying to get back for the pink 4?
I've literally never seen that before. A player taking the end of the cue off and putting it in one of the pockets.
No, that's, you know, fairly common. I've seen Kaci.
Really?
He's done it in this match already once, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my word. I honestly can't remember ever seeing a player do that.
Just a little bit of the ball. Easy to put a little right English on this. Sometimes not hit the ball at all.
So just imagine the scenario there if the cue ball comes off the rail at a different angle, hits the purple 5, and it gets kept out of the pocket by the end of his own cue.
I think we would have saw Kaci moving quickly towards
Yeah, well, you would have had to.
that extension.
Anyway, these are the trivial little things that keep us amused.
It's going to carry out nicely. He's going to now. This is a perfect example of these pockets and the way the table's playing. And all right, he's going to try and come all the way back, as he should, in between the 5 and 6 off of 1 cushion, maybe 2. But these have to be hit purely.
Big chance, this. Opportunity there for Delgado to open a slightly unexpected 3-1 lead over the defending champ without having really played particularly well.
Yeah, that one game that Kaci did win was a fight, and Delgado starting to get a little step around the table.
Yeah, we were saying earlier, no real rhythm being established yet on either side, but the way the balls were sitting when Delgado came to the table, just the sort of chance that can enable you to build up a little bit of that, and perhaps that's what he's doing here. 2 balls away from 3-1. So, lost an epic opening rack. But he's He's won 3 on the spin since then, so Delgado goes 2 clear. Jeffrey Ignacio is a couple of racks away from going through, 7-4 up against Yannick Pongers. That one on table 4. Federer Gorst 6-1 up on Dean Shields, looking to go back-to-back Gorst after his World Masters triumph. In terms of the matchroom events, that is. Dean Shields has just got another one in that match, actually, so it's 6-2 now. Shane Wolford 5-3 down to Marvin Assis. Alvin Anggito of Indonesia has taken another one against Carl Boys, so that's 6-2 now. And Liu Riteng has a 6-2 lead against German player Tobias Bongers. Low host Sum a couple of racks away, 7-4 up on Mustafa Alner.
Yeah, this hasn't helped the pace of play either. The break has been difficult. Not getting a ton of shots, not making balls. Didn't make a ball again here, but did give up a shot for Kaci to get going. Difficult 1 ball.
Just looking at that match that Carl Boys is playing, Jeremy's up against a young man from Indonesia. And in a sense, you could categorize that as a country that's similar in some respects to the Philippines and Vietnam. You don't hear a lot about them on the international sporting stage, but they're enormous countries with huge populations where the game is actually really popular. It's just a matter of someone coming through and making the breakthrough and perhaps inspiring a whole new wave of players to emerge from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna get awkward queuing here, almost straight there. Use that power we all know he possesses to move the cue ball out to the center. Gonna get awkward though. So when you make a few mistakes, that next game's sometimes hard to get. And you know, I know a lot of players and go to Indonesia for exhibitions and challenge matches and whatnot. So you know there's stuff going on there, and of course, like you said, heavily populated and into cue sports. So hopefully another country that will kind of follow in line of the Philippines and now Vietnam. He's going forward here. I think this is just because the queuing. Maybe a stun. All ball fouls. Well, this isn't going to get any easier. It's going to get a little off angle. Shoved that one in, wasn't hit perfectly, but that power he possesses kind of forced that ball in the corner. And one thing Kaci's always done is you'll notice he messes with his glove a lot in between shots. He's always adjusting it a little bit and doing different little things. But I talked to him a bit, and you know, he's lost a little feeling in that left hand, you know, and
as a result of the accident.
Yes,
yeah.
and you know, just the response in it isn't the same that he's, you know, used to as growing up. But, you know, in pool, it's the backhand that really does the work. You know, that's the kind of the engine and the stroke is the backhand. But the front hand, that's exactly what it's there for. There's a lot of feel. Of course, that's what you see and your guidance when cueing. So something that could, you know, hopefully is going to improve for Kaci, but something he's definitely dealing with.
And he's dealt pretty well with this opportunity. So things have picked up a bit in the last couple of racks. And after losing 3 in a row, Kaci has won that one, so he's back to just 1 behind at 3-2. 5-5 now between Karl Naderberg and Anton Raga. The other Karl, boys, 6-2 down against Alvin Angito. Mark Boisterbosch has got one back against Pia Filler, so now trailing 5-3. And Yannick Ponger still making a good battle of it against Jeffrey Ignacio, trailing 7-6. And just talking about Indonesia, it's one of the big mysteries of just global sport to me. Indonesia is the 4th most populated country in the world, and you never hear of them achieving anything in the sporting realm. So you sort of feel that if a big name player could emerge from Indonesia, the field is open there, as it were, for Indonesia to become a major sport there, because when a country doesn't have much success on the global stage, suddenly someone comes through in any particular sport, and that sport becomes a big part of the culture of the nation. Anyway, that's all for the future. For now, Kaci is breaking, looking to level this match. He's 3-2 down.
All right, took a little speed off, not much. He never does. Got the one down, I think, for the first time in this match. Yeah, he's looking to stun 2 rails by the 9 ball here. The 2 some piece away from the pocket. Very difficult shot to stun it, getting by the 9, and again hit your mark, not messing with the 7 or the 5 as you come up, and not overhit for the red 3. So lots going on in this shot. And that was the worry, catching the 9, and this is why. He's going to give up a cross side bank. Definitely one that's playable. A lot of players would shoot at this.
Talk about countries that don't feature much on the international sporting stage. Well, Albania, obviously a much smaller country, but I'd certainly apply that description to that as well. So Kaci, one of his country's most successful sportsmen, although getting a bit of competition at the moment from the national football team, who are going through the best spell in their history, playing at the European Championship this summer.
And there wasn't a whole lot he could do there. The 5 had him cut off the thinner hit on the red 3. So he just had to come around and try and leave distance. Looks like he's going to electrocute downward, trying to come 2 rails between the 9 and the brown 7. He's kind of leveled out a bit here. Now cueing downward.
Have you seen that trick Delgado does where he puts the cue between his legs and puts the ball that way?
No, I have not.
It's amazing. I'm not even doing it justice with the way I'm describing it.
Well, there's a player online that plays that way on a Chinese 8-ball table, I think it is, and it's pretty unreal, the balls that he knocks in. Little snooker here on the red 3. Is it like a trick shot, or he runs racks? Or?
It's hard to describe. It's just one ball. Like, he puts the ball down, he lines up the cue, and then he puts his leg around the cue, and I think he even looks away from the table. Yeah, Jake Asby from Matchroom has just come over and done an extraordinary sort of mime act to try to demonstrate it to you, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Jake's technique would work quite so well.
They look pretty good. I mean, I'm not sure what that technique's supposed to look like, but
anyway, we'll have to get him to show it to you at some stage.
All right, he's got a little bit of a look at the red 3 here. Have more look at it than I thought. Now going for the jump cue, it appears. So this must be about the safety, I'm guessing. Only reason he'd pull out the jump cue, trying to maybe draw back a couple rails behind the pink. 3 should move somewhat off the 6. May not go as far as he thinks, though. Yeah, see, it's coming back at him. I think that was solely trying to get the cue ball protected. Work the cue ball down table here for the purple 5. A little high running left English. The thing he's got to worry about here is the 8, right? I mean, you don't want to let this go and get accidentally behind the 8, maybe over the 8. So he's going to have to follow this a bit, but maybe have to work a bit off the purple to the green 6 here in a moment. Yeah, this is what I would have wanted to stay away from. This was the worry in my mind. And I'm not sure where he was trying to go with it, Michael. Maybe past the 8 to make things easier, but it's not really the working mentality we're used to from Eklent Kaçi. Big favorite to make this jump, but anytime you're jumping the ball, certainly missable. Looks like he could follow out 2 rails, but of course he's at the table. That may be closer to a scratch in the lower right than it appears. So looks like he's hitting a high ball, though. He'll come 2 rails just inside the 8. It's close, though. easy to take your eye off the 6 and overcut this just a touch. Oh, he hit it thick.
Not happening for him today, but he showed some very good form at the Scottish Open last week. Beat Shane Van Boening, ended up in the quarterfinals where he eventually lost to the eventual winner of the tournament, Duong Kwok Wang. It's hard to think of any other sport, Jeremy, where you'd have an event of that nature and have so many of the world's best players in it. You talk about a stacked field. It was amazing, which really added so much to Duong winning that title that he had to come through such a tough lineup to take it.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know it's going to serve him well moving forward. Talked about him at the Whirlpool Masters. Really, you know, didn't get a lot of time there. Had a crazy match with SVB. And I was talking about during the Scottish Open, as far as Wang's concerned and a few others, you know, getting those matches in such a quality field, you can't replace that. No matter if it's at the Scottish Open, the UK, or whatnot, they're all big when you're facing those kind of players. And heading into this UK Open, boy, he's got to be feeling like $1 million.
Speaking of Shane Van Boening, he's off and running against Jake Newlove. What an opportunity this is for the British player to take on one of the greatest of all time. Van Boening off to a good solid start and about to lead 2-0. Been a semi-finalist in this event before.
Shane back with the extension on. I think he's just superstitious with it now. Played the Scottish Open without it, a little bit before without it.
The reason that Van Boening match is now underway is that Naoki Oi did get the job done 9-5 over Do Tae Kien. Oi got off to a good start on table 2 and never really looked like relinquishing the strong position he'd built. So Van Boening on table 2 now, and if you want to have a look in, Matchroom Multisport YouTube is the place to do just that.
That's got to go. It's going to be behind the 9 as well. So all kinds of errors riddled in this match for both players. Looks like Carl Boys has gone down. Oh, watch out, cue ball here. Oof.
Yeah, latest score and a half from Carl's match is that he's 8-2 down, but you think it's over now, do you?
Yeah, I saw him shake hands. So the man from Indonesia moves on to winner's qualification. Carl Boys will be back tomorrow in the late afternoon.
Yeah, to play Diogo Soares of Portugal on the loser's side. Fine win for Angito, though, when you look at the results Boys has had over the last week. A couple of really good wins, including the victory against Albin Ocean at the Scottish Open, and then beat Konrad Yasusin earlier today. So, very encouraging result for the young Indonesian player.
Yeah, he's just trying to shave this off his left side of the brown, just trickle down to the rail, trying to utilize the 9 as a big ball. Yeah, nicely done.
Angito, having beaten Carl Boys, will now play the winner of the match between Carl Naderberg and Anton Raga. They're level at 6-all. And of course, the loser of it will play you, JJ.
Priming me for that 4 o'clock match tomorrow there, Michael. Now here you can kick to the side rail, try and bank the 7 back down and follow through. Let the cue ball continue up table, trying to leave something long. You may get a snooker, you doubt it, but oh, you could see part of it. So definitely going to play that, putting the cue ball in the end rail. Looks like he's left a bit of a natural scratch possibly, so Kaci may be forced to play a safety with an open ball. Kaci going to his case. Maybe should wait maybe till Delgado's done shooting, but looks like he's maybe getting a tip tool or changing shafts maybe, but in the midst of his opponent at the table.
Well, certainly didn't distract Delgado from making the pot. Now he's got a really good chance to go two clear.
And he's got a bit of a stretch here. He's got the extension on it. Easy to let up a little bit. He certainly didn't do that. He's going to get a little bit of an awkward 9 from behind it near the rail with the cue ball.
You surprised at all he played it at that pace?
No, a little surprised he decided to follow the cue ball, though. Most would hit downward and kind of draw across. Didn't mind the pace at all, really. Had to avoid the scratch, couldn't just level out and roll the ball. Kaci happy to get one back on his side, even if it was a gift.
Well, Delgado will feel he's put in an enormous effort here already, and doesn't have anything to show for it because he's back on level terms with Eklent Kaçi, who was a couple of racks behind at one stage. The defending champion has now leveled the contest at 3 apiece. Anton Raga just getting back in front of Karl Naderberg at 7-6. Lu Ri-Teng is the latest winner, 9-3 over Tobias Bongers, and will now face last year's runner-up Joshua Filler. Lo Ho Sum is now on the hill, leading 8-5 against Mustafa Alnar. Jake Newlove has opened his account against Shane Van Boening, closing to 2-1 behind. Pia Filler, 3 away from what would be a fine win over Mark Meisterbosch. She's leading 6-4. It's 6-all between Shane Wolford and Marvin Assis. Dean Shields was really going well, only 6-3 down against Fedor Gorst, which was a decent effort from the British player against the World Masters champion. Gorst, though, has just won rack 10 to make that 7-3. And Niels Fayen 7-2 up against Martinho Correa. Jeffrey Ignacio of the Philippines now on the hill, but only at 8-7 against Yannick Pongers.
Cue ball's going to get lost, maybe. No, it's going to end up with a real nice shot and his first real chance at a break and run.
So good at such a young age. Kaci won a big event in New York when he was only 18, beat Carlo Biado in the final. And that same year, he reached the semi-finals of the World Championship. Was runner-up in the US Open. So certainly until last year, you would have to say, in individual events anyway, that was probably the best year of his career. Following year, became the youngest ever Mosconi Cup player, albeit on the losing side for Europe at Alexandra Palace. Starting a run of 4 straight appearances on the European team. Missed out in 22. As I said, he may well have been back in the team last year, but for that injury. Speaking of team events, Kaci has played in all 4 of Albania's appearances in the World Cup of Pool, which have all come in quite recent times. The first was in 2018. And in all but one of those, they've actually made it past the first round, which is reasonably impressive. Beat Peru last year to get to the last 16 before losing to Poland, along with Besar Spahiu.
Yeah, Besar here in the field as well. Boy, he's improved a lot, I'll tell you. But Kaci may end up playing with little brother one day. I know he won his first match today. I don't know how he did in his second.
He won that one as well.
Yeah, it was a tough one also, right?
Dennis Graber, yeah. Beaten 9-5, so he'll now be playing Torsten Homan. There won't be many matches this week with a bigger age gap between the 2 players. Except maybe some of the matches you play in, Jay.
Yeah, right.
53 last week.
53, yeah. Okay, playing a little power up here for the side of the green 6. Now he's going to play for the corner. Caught it a little to the right side. That's why the cue ball's a little off angle here on the green 6. Going to have to play a similar shot pushing forward. Not the friendliest way to shoot these balls out in the middle of the table. If it'll be, he's very good with the bridge, so looks like he's going to cue it with a bit of inside spin. Should just roll forward, maybe stun out a little bit for the 9 in the left middle. So break and run, I believe.
Yeah, first of the match. Totally out of sync, really, with what we've seen up until now. Eklent Kaçi won the first rack of the match. It's the only time he's led in it, though. Until now, 3 in a row for the Albanian. He leads Jose Alberto Delgado by 4 racks to 3. Niels Fine on the hill now at 8-2 against Martinho Correa, but his fellow Dutchman Yannick Pongers has now been beaten 9-7 by Jeffrey Ignacio of the Philippines. So it looks as though Ignacio will be playing Niels Fine in winners qualification. Petter Gorst just a couple away from victory now over Dean Shields. That one is 7-4. Marvin Assis leading Shane Wolford 7-6. Pia Filler just needs a couple more as well. She's 7-4 ahead of Mark Beisterbosch. And Anton Raga is on the hill now, 8-6 up on Carl Nadeberg. Shane Van Boning now leading Jake Newlove by 4 racks to 1. 4-3 Kaci here.
Yeah, thunderous hit on the rack there.
Yeah, Imran Majid was in earlier in commentary, and can't remember the exact word he used. I think it was the strongest or the most forceful break in the game. That's how he described Eklent Kaçi, and I guess you would probably agree.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, of course, SVB turns it up quite a bit. I think Kaci's got him by just a notch. There's a few that can really hit him. But to consistently do it and do it under the pressure where a lot of guys back off a little bit, and by design.
Well, that's what Van Boning was doing, wasn't it, when he won the World Championship in Milton Keynes in the spring of 22. He was just crunching them time after time after time. That was the bedrock of his success, really.
Yeah, and like I said, Shane, though, kind of superstitious a little bit at times, or gets a little bit, it's the best way to say it, just, you know, what he sees what he believes pretty easily, and if he doesn't like the way something's working just for a couple racks, he wants to change it up, seems like. Just like I commented about the extension that he is playing with this week. Last week he didn't. Changes it up quite a bit. It's going to lengthen a little too much.
Well, even though he wasn't playing particularly well, this match was looking quite promising for Delgado up to a point not so long ago. Now it's just steadily ebbing away from him. Kaci started to play a bit better. Delgado still finding it a bit of a slog.
Yeah, a couple games he won early. You know, he kind of kicked out of some extreme situations, played some nice returns. I think was it the first game? Seemed like it took 20 minutes, I think, or so. Second and third weren't much quicker, but he's eyeing up the pink 4. Now, to me, he's eyed it a few times, so that tells me it probably goes, but it's very difficult. With the green 6 on the other end of the table, he may elect to try and fall somewhat straight on the red 3. That way he can draw back behind the pink 4 for some other pocket besides the lower left.
Just seen Steve Feeney, the sight right man, walking around. Made his name in the snooker world, but I know he's been working with Jason Shaw and perhaps one or two of the other pool players of late. Do you know much about that method, JJ, given all your knowledge of coaching and everything? What do you make of it?
A little bit, actually. I wanted to go over some stuff here this week, I'm hoping, with maybe Elliot. I know he knows quite a bit about it. but I'd love to learn a bit more, that's for sure.
Fascinating thing about it is it seems to work across a number of sports, because I know he was working with the former Ryder Cup golfer Stephen Gallagher as well, and maybe some other golfers. So it's great to come up with a coaching innovation in one sport, but the fact it can work across more than one, that's very unusual.
Yeah, just not totally clicking on all cylinders. Kaci having trouble, not necessarily pocketing the ball, but pocketing the ball how he wants to. Right there, he hit the wrong part of the pocket. That's why he caught a piece of the pink 4. So it's been a bit of a laboring match here for Kaci. It is his first, technically his second, but did get a bye.
Seen a few surprise results today, and we've seen a lot of matches where it looks like it's going to be very one-sided in favour of one player before the off, and then the underdog puts up a good fight, and maybe another one of those emerging on table 2, because Jake Newlove is only 4-2 behind against Shane Van Boening. Big ask to win, but could at least make it tricky for the former world champ.
Pretty nice control there from Kaci, trying to, of course, keep control of the pink 4 and the cue ball. Looks like the jump cue to me. Trying to play the pink 4 back underneath him, maybe get some action on the 9. Cue ball goes into the green 6. I believe something like that.
Low Ho Sum is probably getting a bit tired of being always described as the former World Masters runner-up. Wants to achieve something else to be known by. Well, may well get a shot at Shane Van Boening in the next round here, because Low has just beaten Mustafa Alnar 9-5. Well, Jeremy, you're playing Karl Nadeberg tomorrow, because Anton Raga has pulled away towards the end to beat the Estonian by 9 racks to 6. Raga will play Alvin Angito, who beat Carl Boys earlier in winners' qualification. Nadeberg will face you on the one-loss side.
All right, Delgado going for the cross side bank. I'm really shocked he drew the cue ball. Now, he did draw it into the green 6, so it would have held shape, but it gives me an inclination he was really thinking about the miss rather than just kind of stopping his cue ball, planning to make that bank. Now, this has gotten pretty difficult, I think. You may end up playing a safety behind the brown 7.
Well, the game is probably feeling very, very difficult to Delgado at the moment. Lady Luck hasn't done him any favours with that shot either. Chance for 5-3.
Shane's opponent has gotten another one at 4-3 now and breaking. Didn't recall the name.
Jake Newlove.
Newlove, that's right.
Sounds like a movie star. Yeah, another Shane has bigger problems. Wolford of that name. Now 8-7 down. His Filipino opponent Marvin Assis is on the hill.
Nice recovery there. Made it look easy. Hasn't had a 2-game lead yet, that being Eklent. But this is for 4 on the spin, I believe.
You believe correctly. Delgado was too clear at 3-1. Even then, you always suspected if someone was going to take a firm grip on the match, it probably would be Kaci. And through one thing and another, that's the way it's turning out. 4 in a row, as you say, for the Albanian. He's now past the halfway point in his search for the 9 racks he needs to make a winning start to his defence of the title. 5-3 to Kaci. Could be a lot of winners in the next few minutes. Mark Bijsterbosch has now moved to the hill. He's really turned it around there against Pia Filler, and he now leads by 8 racks to 7. Michael Schneider of Switzerland is a couple away from victory. 7-5 up on the Dutchman, Jan van Lierop. Niels Fine has got it done against Martinho Correa, 9-3. And as a result, we'll play Jeffrey Ignacio in winners qualification. So back to this one. Kaci got a bit of daylight now, looking to make a surge for the line.
Kaci, who will attack these off-angle combinations a little more often than most players. You know how they say fortune favors the brave. Well, fluke to 5 in there. Now on the fence with a long rail bank to the lower left. Kind of can hold a little position for a backdoor safety behind the brown as well. I probably play the safety here, even though I like to stay aggressive, but I like coming off the left side of the blue too and coming some 1, 2, 3 rails behind the 6 and 8. It just lays so nice. Shouldn't miss your mark here. May leave a jump, but should get the snooker. Nice, let it lengthen a little bit. It's going to get somewhat of the snooker anyways. Good thing the brown 7's there. Not his best. Not the fluke he was looking for. Looked to bang the 2 around below the 9. It found that left middle side pocket. Now dead snookered on the red 3. Not going to mind this, though. Kaci should go airborne.
Well, the way this match has turned from 3-1 up, losing 4 in a row, if he's going to have any hope of turning it round back in his direction, really got to make the most of this chance.
Yeah, very routine here. Should just go forward a bit. Maybe play for a little stun angle off the 6. Could follow off the 6 for the brown 7. He went quite a bit forward, so he's going to, I guess, draw the ball.
Well, it's all become a bit of a struggle, this match, for Jose Alberto Delgado. The 30-year-old from Spain was handed a fairly straightforward chance to see this out with ball in hand, and after losing the last 4 racks, he's won this one. And he's still very much in this, only one behind against Eklent Kaçi at 5 racks to 4. So Feddergorst has seen it out against Dean Shields, 9-4. The British player, I would suggest, would probably be quite happy to have made as much of a fight of it as he did. Victory also for Marvin Assis, 9-7 over Shane Wolford. That one's just finished. So Gorst will now play the winner of Michael Schneider and Jan van Lierop. Schneider leading 7-6 at the moment. And Assis, as it stands, on course to play Mark Bijsterbosch, who's in play against Pia Filler at the moment. It's Filler at the table, actually, but she's 8-7 down. And Shane Van Bonen has reasserted himself to some extent against Jake Newlove, the British player. It's the American Van Bonen now leading 5-3. Eklent Kaçi has gone out for a brief break. So let's have a look in on what's going on over on table 2 and that Filler Bijsterbosch. Sorry, it's not Filler against Bijsterbosch, it's the Van Bonen match that I was just talking about. And that is Jake Newlove at the table. A big part of the calendar for these British players who are playing in tournaments in this country all the time. Get a chance to shine here at the UK Open once a year. Perhaps the prime example of that today has been Clint Janssen, who got a couple of wins and is through to winners' qualification. He'll play Mario He on Wednesday. Van Bonen, winner of the Premier League earlier in the year. The other matchroom event that's already been played so far in 24. Had that really good comeback against Duan Kwok Wang, where he needed to win the last 4 racks in the first round to get through, and did. Was then overtaken in the final stages of his quarter-final. Went down 10-8 to Jason Shaw. And Van Bonen will almost certainly open a 3-rack gap here. And while he mops up in rack 9, we will return to the main table. Pretty good. Maybe Delgado's best break of the match so far. World Masters, of course, is an invitational, so this is the first really big world ranking event of 2024, but there have been 8 smaller events going on, and Delgado's had a little bit of success in those. Into the last 32. In a couple of them. In Lugo in March. That's where we were for the Spanish Open and the World Cup last year. And then in Modena in Italy last month. But he's bound to feel, in his 30s now, that he's really going to have to step it up quite soon if he's to have the sort of success would have been hoping for in his career. Had that great European Open run, getting to the semi-finals a couple of years ago, but that really is about it in terms of doing well in big tournaments. It's a pretty good response. Just to confirm, Shane Van Boening did mop up that 9th rack, so 3 clear and 3 away from victory against Jake Newlove. Van Boening now leading 6-3 over on table 2.
Kaci trying to find an edge of this red 3. It's pretty normal for Kaci. Usually gets down on almost every shot, kind of sizing it up before he decides what direction, what kind of stroke he wants to put on the ball.
Well, it was ball in hand that let Delgado back into the match in the previous rack. He availed of the opportunity to get back to only 1 behind, and now with ball in hand again, all of a sudden a chance to be level. Pia Filler and Mark Bijsterbosch are playing an epic 16th rack. On table 18, Bijsterbosch on the hill, remember, at 8-7. The next rack has been going on for quite some time. 3 balls left on the table. 8 is hanging over the pocket. 9, I think, is pretty close to a pocket at the other end. And we'll keep an eye on that. Filler has just banked the 7 in the side, so it looks as though that one's going hill-hill.
Yeah, a little the wrong side here for Delgado, and the reason why that's so important is, first off, gaining position on the 7, but getting proper position to get back over for the 8. So anytime you have to get into the cue ball, and that's what it'll be here with the draw stroke, how you hit the pocket, just off with the speed of hair, he could end up thin or maybe straight. Or that right there, that little nip on the 8 didn't hurt though. Everything's been a struggle here. Even the games he's won, it's been a gift or two. It's been a battle for Delgado to win every game he's had so far. Is he hitting downward on this? I thought he kind of rolled this ball in. Yeah, that's what he's done essentially.
Ripple of applause you may have heard there was for Pia Filler, who's just potted the 9 ball to level at 8-all against Mark Bijsterbosch. She's had some decent wins in these open events over the last few years. That would be one of the best if she could close that out.
Well, I got to see some of her first match. She played pretty solid. I wonder where Josh is at. He's usually not too far.
Yeah, he's sitting beside the table. Well, Jose Alberto Delgado lost 4 racks in a row. It all seemed to be slipping away from him, but he's been handed a couple of opportunities in the last 2 racks, and he's taken them. So we're level again at 5-all. It's getting to that point that we arrive at when you get to mid-evening. In the early days of these open events, just a few matches still out there, so things quietening down around the hall. Of the matches still going, it's 7-all between Michael Schneider of Switzerland and the Dutchman Jan van Lierop. Bijsterbosch and Filler, I've told you about, that's 8-all. And Shane Van Boning 6-3 up on Jake Newlove. Just one match still going on in round 1 on the loser's side. British player Paul Williams 6-5 up on Hassan Shahid. So not much left to be decided on this opening day, but among the issues, this match.
Yeah, great break off there. He's going to get near the 2. I don't know what kind of shot, maybe a cross-side bank. Newlove got one back, 6-4 now with SVB. I think Newlove played in Scotland maybe as well. Not 100% on that, but getting a look at him from some distance, I kind of vaguely think I remember seeing him compete there. All right, not really looking at the cross-side bank. A lot of players would entertain that, that's for sure. Okay, he's going to draw the cue ball. Looks like a lot going on here. Moving the 2, some 2 or 3 rails, cue ball drawn. He's not going to mind that result.
Yeah, Newlove did play in the Scottish Open and played a couple of good players, actually. He was up against Piers Labutus, who's shown some good form this year. Pushed him to 10-6. And then went over to the loser's side as a result of that. Played Duong Kwok Hwang, who ended up winning the tournament. And that was the end of his run. He was beaten by 8 racks to 0.
Yeah, that Hill match we were talking about, Bijsterbosch and Filler. Looks like Bijsterbosch just played a safety on the blue 2. We'll try and keep you updated on that. But now a race to 4. It's been a 2-hour race to 5 essentially for these two, Kaci and Delgado, but looking to clean things up coming towards the end.
I was going to say, I'm not sure the word race is appropriate for anything to do with this match. Crawl to 9, let's call it that.
Yeah. The tortoise in the hare, and we're missing the hare, essentially. I think he can squeeze through it, this blue 2. He'll just follow, maybe have to use a bit of the pocket to make the blue 2. Shot like this, a lot of times, you won't try and get super close to the red 3. Just maybe where those break marks are, just left of the box, or on the left side of the box. Oh, he's coming all the way. So there was more of the blue 2 there than we thought. Got to go a bit. It's going to be all right.
Yeah, just 1 or 2 encouraging signs in Delgado's body language. A few racks ago, he was looking a bit down in the mouth about it all, wasn't playing well. The match was slipping away from him, and handed the opportunities in the last couple of racks, and suddenly he looks like he fancies the job a bit more. after losing the opening rack, Delgado won all of the next 3. Let's take a bit of early control in this match. But having seen that, turn into a 5-3 deficit. He's won 3 in a row again. And against all the expectations we might have had about 10 or 15 minutes ago, Delgado is now back in front and only needs 3 more to pull off a bit of an upset here. 6-5. Jan van Lierop has made it to the hill now, the Dutchman, 8-7 up against Michael Schneider of Switzerland. But the winner of that to play World Masters champion Fedor Gorst in winners qualification.
Bosch in a good position with 4 balls left, the 6, 7, 8, and 9. Can't take anything for granted on this year's tables here at the UK Open. They were very difficult last year as well, but I think overall from a first day 1 look, probably a little more difficult this year.
Defending champion, 6-5 down as Delgado breaks.
Yeah, changed his breaking side. Starting to have more success from the other side of the box, but can't complain about this one, that's for sure. Near the blue 2, does have a shot. We'll see what the red 3 tells us here in a moment.
Looks as though Mark Bosch has weathered the storm against Pia Filler. A really absorbing contest on table 18. Bosch has just potted the winning 9-ball to prevail in a hill-hill finish. And he will play Marvin Assis of the Philippines for a place in single elimination.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in a good position here to get a 2-game lead late. Just really needs to maintain these balls very playable. You know, and you could say it's been a scrappy match in a lot of ways, but Kaci's missed a few easy balls that you wouldn't expect. And, you know, I don't think he's won hardly any of the tactical games overall. Delgado's been very good in that regard, but again, he had a chance to get more separation when it was 5-3. Made a mistake.
Well, it's maybe not saying that much when you consider how he was playing earlier, but this is easily Delgado's best spell of the match. And of course, that's when you want to find it, is when the winning line is just starting to appear on the horizon. Looks for all the world now as though he's going to get that 2-rack gap that he last had as long ago as 3-1.
Might need to slow down a little bit. Actually going to crawl into perfect position, just a foot away from the black 8. Now he can draw up the rail. Pretty foolproof position here.
Really is steadily improving rack by rack here. And that is 4 in a row for Jose Alberto Delgado. Big story developing here. The defending champion going to have to win 4 of the 5 remaining racks. Maybe a big story in progress here on table 2 as well, because I don't think we were expecting it to be this close. British player Jake Newlove only a couple behind against Shane Van Boning, 6-4.
Yeah, difficult safety there, narrowly missing it.
So Van Boning sent to the loser side a couple of times in events like this towards the end of last year by players like Marco Teucher and Kyle Amoroto, and okay, he made it through, but he got to single elimination and himself with a tough draw and went out early.
Pocket speed there. That three was hit a little crudely. Did fall. I haven't seen one of those fall all day. Now he's going to get put in this position with another tempting cross-side bank. He's played some safeties on him before. Well, he's got a chance here to knock this in, though, with a nice spread and get to the hill. This overhead will tell us how steep this bank is. All right, he's looking at the safety again. Really natural, though, the bank. Played for the cross corner with a two-way in mind. Did get it.
Gone hill now on table 8 between Michael Schneider and Jan van Lierop. One of only 4 matches still going on this opening day.
Yeah, haven't seen much of Michael's brother in some time playing. Was a pretty much a mainstay when this tour started. Of course, family man, does work as well. Kind of felt like he was a player kind of coming into his own, though, steadily improving and getting some nice W's, even on some losses. But some of the top players really tough, you know, fought matches. Yeah, I like hitting down on this, trying to go one rail directly at the 2. Gonna get a little fortune, maybe left an edge, but I don't think so. Now the one rail scape kind of looks like the shot. I like the 2 rail scape myself. That would be to the long rail at the bottom of your screen now, to the short rail by the pink and up underneath the 2. I think it offers a lot of you know, positive things that can happen with so much traffic. Now this is a hit that you're kind of staring in the face, but is the angle right to come into the blue 2 and hold the cue ball? Real bare part of the table where Delgado's standing. Yeah, this came free.
We have to qualify it slightly by pointing out that he did get a bye in the first round. Still, it's extremely rare in an event like this to see the defending champion beaten in his first match. It's become a very real prospect for Kaci. He is to start turning it round. You feel that has to begin here. Shane Van Boning has stretched his lead to 7-4 now against Jake Newlove. Just needs a couple more.
Wants to avoid the 9 ball here when it comes to cueing the 6. Doesn't have enough angle to really draw to the rail, I don't think, so he should just hold over. Now a little over the 8 as well. So definitely a missable ball.
Given the way this match has turned against him over the last half hour or so, there was pressure on that. Knew there was a very good chance if he missed it that his opponent was going to get to the hill. Now, Kaci should see this rack out from here. So it's been a decent effort, this, having lost 4 in a row. Kaci has held himself together, all culminating in the simplest of 9s. To get back to just 1 behind. Jose Alberto Delgado's lead trimmed to 7-6. Still waiting for a result on table 8 between Michael Schneider and Jan van Lierop. 8 all in that. Shane Van Bonen has got to the hill now. 8-4, he leads Jake Newlove. Was 6-4 not so long ago. It's all gone very quiet here in the Telford International Centre. Just a few matches still out there. This is one of them. Defending champion Eklent Kaçi, in just won rack 13, is back to 1 behind. 7-6. That's a setback. The way Delgado has been mopping up these sort of opportunities over the last half hour or so. This could be a significant moment with ball in hand.
Yeah, it appears everything's in the clear. He'll work off the blue 2, the 3, and the pink 4 on the top end, and come down trying to finish the last 5 on the bottom, trying to get to the hill. He's broke the balls really well the last part of this match, second half of it, you might say, and get out here, you got to figure. Probably going to have a pretty good break off trying to win. Speaking of breaks, when he made that run in the European Open, you know, that was shortly after the break box and some rules had been put in, and he made that deep run breaking the balls head on, which was, you haven't seen that since, I don't think. It was amazing to me, really. My first real look at Delgado was at that European Open. I'd heard about it before, but never really watched his game much. And a big mistake here on ball in hand, getting a little elevated from nowhere. Don't take your eye off this 3, trying to hold a little better on the pink. All right, going to show us a little lefty. Nice shot.
Yeah, one of those shots that It's a good deal more difficult than it might appear. Now's his chance to be first to the hill.
Yeah, I was going to say, he really has an option to come down for the side here. I'm a big corners guy, but this one lays to where, you know, the angle's pretty natural to come down one rail between the 9 and 5. Not much worry there. The speed should be good. He's going to stay for the corner, it looks like. One thing I've noticed, he's definitely shooting the balls in with a little more confidence.
Yeah, even earlier on when he was in a good position in the match, there didn't seem to be much belief in his body language. Oh, and just as we say that, he's handed the initiative in this rack straight over to Kaci.
Yeah, a little short through impact there, and just didn't get a clean hit on the object ball. But it's almost like before in the match, he was kind of stressing over every shot, it seemed. Or now it seems like he's playing a bit more, although a big miss there.
Amazing how often in all cue sports we see big names in danger of early surprise defeats dig themselves out of it and get through, and a lot of the time it's through their own excellence, but probably just as often it's because the underdog may be a bit thrown by prospect of a big win, throws in a moment like that. Meanwhile, Jake Newlove emerges from this match with a great degree of credit, but it's Shane Van Bonen who emerges with the win. He beats the British player by 9 racks to 4, so Van Bonen, after a bye in the first round, gets his UK Open campaign off and running. He'll play Loho Sum, who beat him in the World Masters a couple of years ago. That'll be in winners' qualification.
And Kaci really taking a long look at the 7 ball. A little awkwardly straight-ish on the 6 anyways, and if it's tight, you don't want to be shooting to a portion of the pocket with the cue ball near the rail. Yeah, I think Loho Sum's gonna show us something now. I mean, he's an underdog tomorrow, but last couple times I saw him play, I think his technique has improved a lot. You know, that run he made a few years ago at the Whirlpool Masters, you know, he was riding high on emotion that week, I think, just from the start, that first win. But I think he's going to turn into a very, very good player, very veteran kind of player, and he's going to have some results out here.
Yeah, it wasn't just in the World Masters. It was around that time generally. He had a lot of wins against very high-profile players.
Well, you know it's a mental game. So you lose a little confidence, maybe lose a match or two you're supposed to win.
So this looks pretty inevitable from here. Well, what a chance Delgado had in this rack. These could all have been his. But it was a miss into this corner that Kaci is shooting into now. It turned rack 14 on its head. So it's going to be back-to-back rack wins for the Albanian. So the prospect of a winning start to his title defense is still very much alive and kicking. Kaci wins 2 in a row to level with Delgado at 7-all. They both need 2 more. Now, Jeremy, with your amazing ability to spot a pool match at any distance, can you see the Michael Schneider-Jan van Lierop match? Because it's been stuck on 8-all for quite some time.
No, I don't see it. Don't see it anywhere. It must be in the far right corner. Looks like that's probably the case.
I can see one other match going on there, but that's the one that's on the loser's side. Anyway, we will bring you a result from Schneider and Van Lierop as soon as we can.
Well, you know how it is. Hill very rarely have a break and run. Even though we did at the Whirlpool Masters, I mentioned that to Fedor Gorst after his win. The next day, I think it was, that finally a break and run and a major title when it's Hill. When's the last time we've seen that? Just a crunch, I'll tell you.
Finally, a result from that match, and Jan van Lierop of the Netherlands has defeated Switzerland's Michael Schneider by 9 racks to 8, and so will play the aforementioned Fedor Gorst in winners' qualification. Now, the only match left going on the winner's side is this one.
I assume maybe contemplating the safety since he walked down on that end of the table, but really keeps eyeing the blue 2 past the purple 5 to the upper left. A shot that he really excels at out in the middle of the table. A little bit of a cut. Looks pretty natural to pull the cue ball towards the brown 7 to hold for the red 3. Got a couple pretty easy safeties, or I say easy, I mean doable. Wants to shoot though. Don't play the tournament in the early rounds with the shot clock, but kind of feel like we've talked about before, Michael, it's one of those matches where if the shot clock was put in play, they probably would have played a bit better pool.
Without a doubt, but there was nothing wrong with that shot. Chance for Kaci. Be first to the hill, which wasn't looking likely a couple of racks ago. There's been a suggestion that maybe there should be a shot clock on the main table in the early stages. Now, you would say that wouldn't be entirely fair because you'd have players playing in the same round and some under time restrictions and others not. But then counter argument to that is, would be a good thing for promoting the game. So what do you think?
Oh, I think 100% it should be in play here on our 2 stream tables. And I think, you know, manpower given and everything else, I think it's going to be something that's going to be on the outer tables one day anyway. So I don't think any players would really mind it. You know, if you get drawn to the main table, you get drawn to the main table. It's pretty fair, I think, overall.
One more result. Paul Williams of Britain on the loser's side has beaten Hassan Shahid in a hill finish. So we'll now play Ricardo Mota of Portugal in round 2 on the loser's side. So this is now the only match still out there on this opening day.
Yeah, and this is all about, he's a little off angle. He'd love to draw back for an angle, either go forward to get a subtle angle, either one, but both need a little work. I like what he did here, though, trying to get close to it. That way, if he just gets a little bit of an angle, he has extreme touch, and he can kind of manufacture more if needed. I think pretty smart play there. Now it looks like he can just shoot a high ball with a hair check maybe and just roll over in between the 8 and the 7. Wants to not get elevated and of course avoid the side pocket. He's definitely over the 8. All kinds of pros and cons when it comes to the taller player versus the not so tall player, but this is definitely one of the advantages for the tall guys, is these reaches out in the middle of the table over a ball. I've always felt the tall players have a little advantage anyways, but a sport that has all shapes and sizes. Well, under pressure, one of the toughest shots, kind of rolling your ball a little jacked up. Yeah, I like what he did there, Michael. He went ahead and said, okay, let me put a little more speed, a little more conviction on this. Even though I'm going to have a longer 8 ball, at least I'm going to have the first look.
A match of big swings after they shared the first couple of racks. Delgado won the next 3. And Kaci won 4 in a row. And Delgado won 4 in a row. If this 9 goes down after the 8 just wriggles in, it'll be 3 in a row for Kaci. And if he can maintain his current streak for just one more rack, he will be through to the next round. Eklent Kaçi back in front against Jose Alberto Delgado at 8-7. It's funny we're talking about this business of having the shot clock in the early stages, because when I was out watching your match earlier today, actually, and you have those little iPads where the players are updating the scores themselves. Now, it made me think there was a thing back in the 1990s in this country. It was called Pot Black Time Frame. Snooker event. It was only played once. It was won by a good friend of mine, Neil Folds. And once you had your visit to the table and you missed, you would go back to your seat and press a button that would then start the clock on the other player. Now, there were all kinds of other rules as well, and it was a bit too complicated, so it didn't really work as a format. But you add up all of those things, you think it probably wouldn't be the most difficult thing in the world for the software to be adjusted so that that could be applied in these events. So say, for example, when you were playing Melconian earlier, your visit to the table ends, you go back to your chair, and you have every incentive to get back there as quickly as possible, of course. Press a button and start a shot clock on him. So maybe that's the future.
Yeah, something like chess they play, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think, you know, the final 64, we need to move on into the shot clock for the final 64 instead of just TV at times, but again, baby steps.
Well, it would have been ironic, given the drawn-out nature of some of the early racks, if this one had finished with a golden break. But as we'll see here, the 9 did have a look at the side pocket.
And does anybody's 1 ball vanish quicker than Kaci's? Really, it's amazing how consistent he can hit it. Of course, I think it was at the Whirlpool Masters we had talked about cueing, and you know, as far as straight cueing and all that. And I think because Kaci exited early in that tournament against Filler, we had talked about, you know, Federer Gorst real straight up and down with the cue, everything lined up. Filler really good. I think Boise had talked about Shaw, of course, with the straight cueing, but I think this guy's as straight as anyone. That's the only reason you can play with so much power and still be so accurate, I think.
He's been renowned, hasn't he, for that straight cue action since he was a teenager, burst onto the scene. So pressure on Delgado here. Got to get this right.
Yeah, he's got to hit down on this kick shot. You want to kick 2 rails, but really it's not the play, I don't think. Too many ways for things to go wrong. Missing the ball, scratching. I think you got to go 1 rail at it, trying to pocket this 3. Try and play a little bend on the cue ball, maybe. Don't want to see him leveling out with the cue stick here.
Ball in hand has played a big part in the latter stages of this match, and it could now be the catalyst for the contest to finally come to an end some 2.5 hours after it began.
Yeah, and Kaci sizing up the 8, but it was the 2-rail scratch. I don't think he was trying to go 2 rails. He knew the scratch was there. Just maybe hit up on the cue ball a little bit, but Kaci gets out here. There's a few things you can remember if you're Delgado, but 7-6 it was, I believe. Ball in hand. He ran out and missed the 6 ball to get on the hill. That'll be the one that he'll certainly remember the easiest. And for Kaci, though, if you look at this match, you know, nothing really went the way he wanted it to go. I'm not saying he got bad rolls. I'm just saying it wasn't his best performance. But he's broke the balls really well, so he's got a little something to lean on there, like always. If he can get out here, I think he kind of just, you know, turns the page on day 1 here at the UK Open and forgets about it and moves on.
Yeah, it's such a long road to winning one of these titles if you play really well in your first match. It's a long time to then have to maintain that sort of form. Nothing wrong at all with just finding a way through. Don't put yourself under that pressure of going to the 1-loss side early on, and the knowledge that even if you do get through, you could face a really big name in the final 64. Always room to improve as the days go on. A little bit of figuring out still to do here.
Yeah, just a little bit. He may end up contacting the 9 when he shoots the 8. But going into this match, I mean, Kaci's got to know that Delgado's a bulldog. You know, he may not always play his best, but always giving up 100%. We saw him really battle for some games early where Kaci could have got a big lead, you would say, to start. And also, I think Delgado can leave this match behind a bit. Had some nice performances during the match, but overall not his best. And this was always going to be a little tricky. Looks like he can float forward and take a little more cut on the 9. I don't know if he wants to do that. Doesn't look too difficult to me.
Well, it is all over now. So they've exchanged batches of 4 racks. Kaci won 4 in a row. Delgado won the next 4. By finishing, oh, just as I was about to say, by finishing with a 4-rack streak, Kaci has survived. And now, all of a sudden, every chance of hill. What a miss!
Yeah, none of us expected it, that's for sure.
Delgado would have expected that the next time he got out of his chair would be to shake Kaci's hand. Instead, it was to pot the winning 9-ball, and now he'll stay on his feet to break in the deciding rack.
Let's just play win by 2 from here, Michael. Joking, but yeah. Well, talk about players that, you know, they like to thump the 9 in a bit now. That had nothing to do with that miss so much. That miss was a bit from the pocket. But he kind of sweeted a lot of 9s during this match, and maybe just to get a little feel good before exiting what would be a rough match a little bit for Kaci, wanting to pound the 9 in, and now he's playing another game.
I think he was taking revenge on me there, because I think it may even have been at this event last year. I think I was talking in commentary and he could hear me, and he said I'd put him off on the 9-ball. I think he was taking his revenge by destroying my closing line. Anyway, clearly that's a joke. Kaci can't quite believe what he's just done there. So it's going to be almost 3 hours after this match started, and it's finally going to finish, and it's all going to be decided by this rack.
And cue ball going some 3 rails up towards the left corner. Watch out.
Oh, that's
curtains.
That's in. So yet again, ball in hand playing a big part in the climactic stages of this match.
Yeah, and you could call it unlucky, and it certainly was, but he didn't hit the rack how he wanted. The cue ball went some 3 rails underneath. Could have scratched all kinds of ways. I'll tell you, I play short side here. I shoot the 2 in the opposite middle here, the right middle, and follow down for the red 3 in the left lower corner. Yeah, you got to play in that side right there. Yeah, that's it. You know, there's a bit more pressure also. I mean, of course, everything that's going on with the World 9-ball Tour, but you know, since the change where you can't just enter these open events or be one of the few that are lucky to just enter, now everything's gotten more difficult. That's why we see more quality matches here on day 1 in early rounds. You're going to have qualifiers, invitations to players that certainly need to be here and should be here. Ooh, that one wiped his feet a bit.
Well, what we used to see on the first couple of days of these events, a lot of runaway matches, players out in the main table who really weren't able to produce. And it wasn't necessarily because they were bad players. It may just be a case that they had some ability but weren't in form coming into it. But now, of course, unless you're ranked high enough to get straight in, you're going to have won some qualifying matches just before the main event to get in. So you'll clearly be bringing some form, and the days of the early rounds of these events being dominated by 9-0s and 9-1s, I think, are consigned to the past.
Yeah, and you know, staying on the winner's side per se, of course, is always what you want. But before, you know, a player could think, well, you know, 2nd round loss, I probably only got to beat 1 really quality player to get in. Now that's not the case at all.
And also, in addition to that, because we have so many more of these open events now, a lot more of the players coming in have got a good deal of experience of playing in them, so that all adds to it as well. Meanwhile, back in the present day, got to the point where whoever lost this match was going to have regrets. Kaci's may well have been his miss 9 at the end of rack 16 when he looked poised to win 9-7. But of course, you've no reason for regrets if you end up winning anyway. Kaci is a couple of balls away from doing that in what would be a massive let-off after the way he passed up his opportunity in rack 16. But after what we saw at the end of that rack, let's not mark this one in the books just yet.
Yeah, and talked about him shooting that 9 with speed, but you also have to appreciate, after missing a 9, how aggressive he stayed with the stroke here in the Case game. The 7 he pounded in, the 8, nice speed.
So, missed the 9 at the end of the previous rack. But pots the 9, powers it in at the end of this one, and that takes him to 9. Total he needed. So Eklent Kaçi does, in the end, make a winning start to his title defense. He beats Jose Alberto Delgado, who's missed a big chance there, you have to say, to pull off what would have been one of the biggest wins of his career so far. Kaci is the winner by 9 racks to 8. He is the last winner on this opening day of the UK Open. 2023 champion gets by just. And he will now play Mickey Kraus of Denmark in winners' qualification. And that concludes the first day of the 3rd UK Open. After 2 years in London, we've moved here to Telford. So, as always, so much has happened. A lot of players turning up early this morning. 10 o'clock was the start. There's you, Jeremy, in there. And then Federer Gorst, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, Carl Boys, who had 1 win and then a defeat later in the day. Good day for Clint Jansen, the British player. He's through to winners' qualification. Sam Henderson, the young American, also made a bit of a name for himself, appearing on one of the main tables. And he too is 1 win away from getting through to the single elimination stage of the tournament. As is always the case, we had half the field playing today. The other half will come in tomorrow. You saw the former world snooker champion Stuart Bingham there. He'll be among the players featuring in Wednesday's action. So will the likes of Jason Shaw, Albin Ocean, former winner of this title, and the multiple Mosconi Cup MVP, Skylar Woodward. So that's all to come up tomorrow. That's the trophy they're ultimately playing for. Someone will pick that up on Sunday night. It was Eklent Kaçi last year in London, and he has passed his opening hurdle in defence of the title, but only just after an